I watched my sister stand on that picnic table like she'd just won an election, pointing at me while 30 family members cheered. She's the reason Dad doesn't trust us with money. The applause that followed felt like physical blows. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood up, walked to my car, and drove away while they celebrated my destruction. If you want the full truth about what they'd been hiding for years, hit like so this story reaches more people who've been blamed for things they didn't do. My name is Vivian Clark, and I'm 27 years old. For the past 6 years, I've been the family scapegoat for a crime I didn't commit. What they didn't know was that I'd spent those same 6 years building something they couldn't imagine, something that would expire exactly 7 days after that picnic. The story starts when I was 21, fresh out of college with a finance degree. My father, Thomas Clark, owned a successful construction supply company worth about $12 million. He'd always been cautious with money, but he trusted family. That was his mistake. One Tuesday morning, Dad called me into his office at the company headquarters. His face was gray. "Vivian, I need you to explain something." He turned his computer screen toward me. Bank statements, transfer records, $200,000 missing from the company account. My stomach dropped. "What is this?" "You tell me. These transfers were authorized using your employee access code." "That's impossible. I've never—" "The digital signature matches yours. The timestamps show you logged in from your desk computer after hours. Vivian, just tell me the truth. Do you have a gambling problem? Drug debt? I can help you if you're honest." I felt like I was drowning. "Dad, I swear on everything I didn't do this. Someone used my credentials. We need to investigate. The IT audit is complete. Your access code, your signature, your computer." His voice cracked. I didn't want to believe it. That's when my sister Rachel walked in. 25 years old, Dad's favorite. Always perfect. "Dad, I heard shouting. Is everything okay?" He showed her the statements. Rachel's eyes widened in what I now know was Oscar-worthy acting. "Vivian, no. Why would you do this?" "I didn't." My brother Marcus appeared next. 29, the golden child who'd already been promised VP of operations. Then my mother Jennifer, who'd always thought I was too ambitious. Then my Uncle Paul, Aunt Christine, cousins Jordan and Melissa. Within an hour, the whole family knew. Dad didn't fire me. That would have been kinder. Instead, he restricted my access, moved me to a windowless office doing data entry, and told everyone I was working off the debt. Before he'd consider pressing charges, the family agreed this was generous. No one asked questions. No one demanded a real investigation. They just accepted that Vivian, the ambitious one, Vivian, the competitive one, Vivian, who'd always been too focused on money, had stolen from her own father. Comment investigate if you think someone should have dug deeper into what really happened. For 6 years, I lived with that label while I planned something they'd never see coming. The worst part wasn't the isolation at work. It was the family gatherings where everyone treated me like a reformed criminal on probation. Every holiday, every birthday, every Sunday dinner became a performance of my supposed redemption. Rachel would make comments like, "Dad, shouldn't we lock the gift money away before Vivian arrives?" Everyone would laugh. Casual cruelty dressed as jokes. Marcus started a family tradition of counting the silverware before and after I visited. "Just checking," he'd say with a smile that never reached his eyes. My mother stopped inviting me to her book club, her garden parties, her charity events. "People know what you did, Vivian. It's embarrassing." But I showed up to everything. I smiled. I took the abuse. Because I was building something in the shadows that required their complete confidence in my defeat. 3 months after the theft accusation, I'd started noticing things. Small things. Rachel buying a new Audi on a teacher's salary. Marcus taking spontaneous trips to Vegas every 6 weeks. My cousin Jordan suddenly investing in rental properties despite working retail. I began documenting everything. Every social media post showing unexplained wealth. Every offhand comment about lucky investments. Every vacation that didn't match declared income. Then I made a decision that would take years to execute. I went back to school at night, taking courses in forensic accounting, cybersecurity, and digital investigations. I spent my data entry salary on certifications that would let me trace digital fingerprints. 2 years in, I discovered the first concrete evidence. Rachel's boyfriend at the time, drunk at a Christmas party, mentioned how Rachel had helped him get started with a $20,000 loan. Rachel kicked him under the table. He shut up immediately, but I'd heard it. Rachel, who supposedly lived paycheck to paycheck, had $20,000 to loan out. I started hacking, not illegally. I used social engineering, publicly available records, and skills I'd learned in those night classes. I built a picture of where that stolen money had actually gone. The $200,000 hadn't disappeared. It had been divided and distributed like seeds planted in a garden. Seeds that had grown into something much larger. Rachel had received $40,000. She'd used it to start a side business flipping furniture, which she'd grown into a profitable operation. She reported none of it on her taxes. Marcus had received $60,000. He'd used it for sports betting with a private bookie, turning it into $200,000 over 4 years. Also unreported. My mother had received $30,000. She'd invested it in a friend's boutique as a silent partner, collecting monthly dividends she never declared. Uncle Paul, $25,000. Cousin Jordan, $20,000. Aunt Christine, $15,000. Cousin Melissa, $10,000. Every single person who'd condemned me had profited from the theft they'd blamed me for. But I still didn't have the crucial piece. Who had actually stolen it? Who had used my credentials? That answer came during year 4, when I finally cracked the digital trail that had been carefully hidden. Type yes if you want to know who orchestrated the entire theft and frame job. The person who destroyed my reputation wasn't just in the family, they were sitting at the head of the table. It was my father. Thomas Clark had stolen from his own company and framed his own daughter. The revelation hit me like a physical punch when I traced the final digital signature back to his personal laptop, hidden behind 3 proxy servers and a VPN he'd purchased under a fake business name. But why? That question haunted me for weeks until I found the second set of books. Dad had been embezzling from his company for 15 years. Small amounts at first, then larger sums as he got confident. He'd taken nearly $3 million total, using it to fund a lifestyle he couldn't actually afford and to give family members gifts that kept everyone loyal. The $200,000 he'd pinned on me? That was cleanup money. He'd needed to explain a gap in the accounts before an upcoming audit. So he'd created a patsy, used my credentials while I was on vacation, and constructed a narrative so airtight that no one questioned it. He'd sacrificed me to save himself. The family had accepted it because it served them. Rachel needed someone to look down on. Marcus needed someone below him in the hierarchy. My mother needed a reason to justify her lifelong preference for my siblings. And they'd all taken money from the theft they knew I didn't commit. I could have gone to the police, could have exposed everything immediately, but I wanted something more than justice. I wanted them to feel what I'd felt: public humiliation, betrayal by the people who should love you, and complete destruction of everything they'd built on lies. So I spent the next 2 years building a trap. I started a consulting company, small at first, helping local businesses with financial planning. I was good at it. Very good. Within 18 months, I had 30 clients and annual revenue of $400,000. I bought a small house, paid cash, let the family think I was finally getting stable. Then I did something brilliant. I hired Rachel's furniture business as a contractor for office decoration. I invested in Marcus's consulting services for market analysis. I became a client of my mother's boutique partner. I threw money at my cousin's various ventures. I made them dependent on me. They thought I'd forgiven them, that I'd accepted my place as the family fuck-up who'd finally found modest success. They started being nicer to me, now that I was useful again. Dad even told me at one Sunday dinner, "Vivian, I'm proud of how you've rebuilt after your mistakes. Shows character." I smiled and thanked him while imagining what was coming, because here's what they didn't know. Every business relationship I'd built with them was a contract with very specific terms. Terms buried in the fine print that none of them read because they trusted family. Terms that gave me control. Comment contracts, if you understand why she made them dependent on her business. The final piece fell into place when Dad announced at that picnic that he was planning to retire in 6 months. He'd be splitting his company shares between Rachel and Marcus. I would get nothing. That's when I knew it was time. The family picnic was at Riverside Park, Dad's favorite spot. 78 degrees, perfect blue sky, 3 generations of Clarks celebrating what Dad called Family Legacy Day. Rachel had been drinking mimosas since noon. That's when she got brave. She'd been making little comments all day about my checkered past and how some people just make bad choices young. Marcus encouraged her. Remember when we had to have that intervention, Viv? That was rough. There was no intervention. That was a new lie they'd invented, rewriting history to make my supposed theft seem even more dramatic. My mother added, "We all make mistakes, some bigger than others." I'd been quiet all day, eating potato salad, playing with my nieces and nephews, pretending everything was fine. But I could feel the energy building. They were working up to something. Then Rachel climbed on that picnic table. "Can I have everyone's attention?" She was swaying slightly. "I want to talk about something important. Family trust. Oh God. Here it comes. Some of us have worked really hard to rebuild trust in this family. Some of us have been given multiple chances." Her eyes locked on me. "And some of us are the reason Dad had to become so careful with money in the first place." Scattered applause. My Aunt Christine called out, "Tell it, Rachel." "I just think we should acknowledge why Dad is the way he is about finances, why he double-checks everything, why he locks his office, why he makes us all jump through hoops." Rachel pointed directly at me. "She's the reason Dad doesn't trust us with money." The cheer that erupted made my ears ring. 30 people applauding my sister for publicly blaming me for something I didn't do. My nieces and nephews, too young to understand, clapping because everyone else was. Dad didn't stop it. He stood there with his arms crossed, nodding slightly, validating every word. Marcus started a chant. "Truth, truth, truth." I looked at my mother. She was clapping, smiling. That's when something inside me just went quiet and cold. I stood up. Didn't say a word. Walked to my car while they continued celebrating behind me. Rachel called out, "Where are you going, Viv? Can't handle the truth?" More laughter. I drove home in complete silence. No music, no crying. Just that cold, quiet fury that comes when you realize you're completely alone in the world. When I got home, I opened my laptop and pulled up the file I'd been preparing for 2 years. Pages and pages of evidence, contracts, financial trails, and legal documentation. Then I composed a message. The same message I would send to 17 different people. I scheduled it to send in exactly 7 days, the following Saturday at 8 p.m. The message was simple. Your access to Clark Financial Services, including all contracted services, partnerships, and agreements, will expire tonight at midnight. All automatic payments will be suspended. All business relationships will be terminated. Full contract details are attached. This action is irreversible. Share this video if you've ever wanted to watch people realize they destroyed the wrong person. Then I waited for the perfect week to unfold. Monday morning, Rachel called me. I let it go to voicemail. "Hey Viv, it's me. Listen, I'm sorry about the picnic. I was drunk and got carried away. You know how I get. Anyway, I'm placing a big order for office furniture for 3 of your clients. Can you send over the specs? Also, I need that monthly payment by Wednesday. Love you." The monthly payment she referenced was $1,500 I'd been paying her for consulting services on office design. Services I no longer needed but had kept paying to maintain the trap. I texted back, "We'll handle everything this weekend." Tuesday, Marcus emailed about a market analysis project for one of my clients. $3,500 for work that took him maybe 6 hours. Easy money he'd grown accustomed to. I replied, "Payment processing this week. Details coming Saturday." Wednesday, my mother's boutique partner sent an invoice for the quarterly fashion consultation package I'd purchased, $2,000 for advice I never used. I responded, finalizing accounts this weekend. They had no idea what Saturday would bring. Thursday, Dad called. This was unusual. We barely spoke outside of family gatherings. Vivian, I wanted to talk about the retirement announcement. I know you were probably hurt that you weren't included in the company succession plan. Probably hurt. Like it was questionable whether being completely cut out would affect me. I'm listening, I said. The thing is, after what happened 6 years ago, I can't in good conscience put you in a leadership position. It wouldn't be fair to Marcus and Rachel who've proven themselves trustworthy. But I'm not heartless. I've set up a trust fund for you. $50,000. It'll be yours when I retire. $50,000 from a $12 million company I'd helped build. That's very generous, Dad. I'm glad you understand. I know you've been working hard on your little consulting business. That takes character, rebuilding after rock bottom. My little consulting business had cleared $400,000 in revenue last year and was on track for $600,000 this year. But sure, Dad, it's cute. I appreciate you thinking of me, I said, my voice steady. Good. And Vivian? Maybe ease up on the business arrangements with family. People are starting to depend on you. That's a lot of pressure for someone with your history. There it was. He wanted me to stop creating the dependencies I'd carefully constructed. He sensed something but couldn't see the full picture. I'll think about that, I lied. Friday evening, I received a group text from Rachel. Family dinner, Sunday at Mom's. Everyone's invited to celebrate Dad's retirement planning. Viv, please come. I promise no more picnic table speeches, LOL. I replied with a simple thumbs up emoji. Saturday morning, I woke up at 6 a.m., made coffee, reviewed every document in my revenge file one last time. Everything was perfect. Every piece of evidence backed up. Every legal claim documented. Every contract clause highlighted. Type Saturday if you know what's about to hit them. At 8 p.m., 17 people would receive identical messages, and their entire world would collapse. Saturday afternoon, I went to the gym. I needed to burn off nervous energy. This wasn't fear. It was anticipation so intense, it felt physical. At 6 p.m., I made dinner. Pasta with marinara sauce, garlic bread, a glass of wine. I ate slowly, watching the clock. At 7 p.m., I opened my laptop and pulled up the scheduled message screen. 17 recipients. 17 people who'd built comfortable lives partially on my destruction. The message would go out in 1 hour. But the message was just the beginning. What they'd find in the attached documents would destroy them piece by piece. For Rachel, documentation that her furniture business had been operating without proper licensing for 3 years. Her contractor's license had expired and she'd never renewed it, but she'd continued taking jobs. That's insurance fraud. Also, detailed records of her unreported income, $32,000 last year alone. The IRS loves anonymous tips with documented evidence. For Marcus, records of his gambling activities with an illegal bookie. Sports betting isn't legal in our state through private bookies. That's a felony. Plus evidence he'd been using company resources for personal betting research, violating his employment contract. Dad would have to fire him or face liability. For my mother, proof she was a silent partner in the boutique without disclosing it on her taxes. Plus evidence the boutique was selling counterfeit designer items, something I discovered by accident. Her fingerprints were all over the sourcing document. For Dad, the big one. Copies of 15 years of embezzlement, ready to go to the company's board of directors and the state attorney general. I'd cracked his hidden accounts, traced every dollar, and documented how he'd framed me to cover his tracks. For Uncle Paul, evidence he'd been claiming his beach house as a primary residence for tax purposes, while actually renting it out most of the year. Tax evasion. For Aunt Christine, documentation that her nonprofit was a front for funneling money to family members. Charity fraud. For Jordan, proof he'd lied on his mortgage applications about income, using falsified documents. Mortgage fraud. For Melissa, records of her disability insurance fraud. She'd been claiming back injury payments while running marathons and posting about it online. 8 other family members had similar folders. Not all crimes, but all devastating in their own ways. Business improprieties, licensing violations, contractual breaches with legal consequences. I'd spent 2 years building an evidence file that would trigger investigations into 17 different people simultaneously, but the immediate impact would be financial. Every single one of them was dependent on my business in some way. Contracts that paid them regularly, arrangements that supplemented their income, relationships that kept their own businesses afloat. All of those would terminate at midnight. Rachel would lose $1,500 monthly. Marcus would lose his consulting income of roughly $3,000 monthly. My mother's boutique would lose its biggest client. Dad's company would lose the supply contract I'd established worth $50,000 annually. The dominoes would fall fast. At 7:45 p.m., I poured a second glass of wine. At 7:55 p.m., I sat on my couch with my phone. At 8 p.m. exactly, I watched the scheduled send execute. 17 emails departed simultaneously. Comment sent if you felt the satisfaction of watching this trigger. Then I waited for hell to break loose. The first call came at 8:04 p.m. Rachel. I didn't answer. She called again at 8:06, then 8:07, then continuously until I blocked her number. Marcus called at 8:11. Blocked. My mother at 8:15. Blocked. Dad at 8:18. I let him go to voicemail. His message was ice. Vivian, call me immediately. What you've sent is unacceptable and potentially illegal. We need to discuss this before you make a serious mistake. Too late, Dad. The mistake was made 6 years ago, and it was yours. My phone started buzzing with text messages. The group chat Rachel had created for Clark family was exploding. Rachel. What the fuck, Vivian? Marcus. This is insane. You can't just terminate contracts like this. Uncle Paul. Your father needs to handle his daughter. Aunt Christine. This is emotional manipulation. Typical Vivian. Jordan. So much for family. Melissa. Dad's right. She's always been the problem. My mother. Vivian Elizabeth Clark, answer your phone right now. I opened the group chat and typed one message. I left the picnic because I was done being your scapegoat. Now you'll learn what it feels like to lose everything over something you actually did. Then I left. The group chat. More calls, more texts, all blocked. At 8:47 p.m., someone rang my doorbell. I checked my security camera. Marcus and Rachel, both looking furious. Marcus pounded on the door. Vivian, open up. We need to talk. Rachel. You can't do this. You'll destroy your own family. I turned on my front porch camera speaker. Go away, or I'm calling the police. This is blackmail, Marcus shouted. No, it's business. Read your contracts. Every termination clause is legally binding. You all signed them. You manipulated us, Rachel screamed. You celebrated my public humiliation 8 days ago. I'm returning the favor. Now leave before I file harassment charges. They stood there for another minute, then left. I watched them sit in Marcus's car for 20 minutes, probably strategizing. At 9:15 p.m., my phone rang from an unknown number. I answered. Vivian. Dad's voice was controlled fury. What you've done tonight is destructive and vindictive. You're hurting people who care about you. People who care about me don't frame me for theft and mock me for 6 years. You were caught. The evidence was fabricated by you, Thomas. I know everything. The embezzlement, the proxy servers, the fake business names. I know you stole from your own company and blamed me to avoid an audit. Silence. Long, heavy silence. I have every digital footprint, I continued. Every transaction, every hidden account, 2 years of forensic investigation, and it's all in the hands of my lawyer, ready to go to the state attorney general if you or anyone in this family contacts me again. You're bluffing. Try me. Make one more call, send one more text, show up at my house again. Test whether I'm bluffing about sending federal investigators after you for 15 years of embezzlement and fraud. More silence. Sunday dinner is canceled, I said. Permanently. Comment canceled if you would have said the exact same thing. Then I hung up and blocked that number too. Sunday morning, I woke up to discover my email inbox flooded with 127 messages from various family members, legal threats, desperate pleas, angry rants, guilt trips about destroying the family. I deleted them all without reading past the subject lines, but one email caught my attention. It was from my cousin Melissa's husband, Derek. He wasn't on my revenge list because he'd always been kind to me, even when the rest of the family wasn't. His email was simple. Vivian, I don't know everything that happened, but I saw what Rachel did at the picnic. I'm sorry no one stood up for you. For what it's worth, Melissa is in her room crying because she's terrified you're going to report her disability fraud. She is actually injured, by the way. The marathons she posted about were from before her accident. She just never updated her Instagram. I don't know if that changes anything, but I thought you should know. I stared at that email for 20 minutes. Then I opened Melissa's folder and reviewed the evidence. Derek was right. The marathon posts were dated before her injury claim. I'd missed that detail in my rage to build cases against everyone. I'd almost destroyed an innocent person because I was so focused on revenge. That realization sat heavy in my chest. This was the problem with scorched earth tactics, collateral damage. I replied to Derek, "Thank you for telling me. I'll review Melissa's file again. If she's legitimate, I'll destroy the documentation." Then I spent 2 hours going through every other file with fresh eyes, looking for mistakes, looking for places where my anger might have made me sloppy. I found 3 more questionable cases. Cousin Jordan's mortgage fraud case was weaker than I thought. His income documentation might have been optimistic rather than falsified. Uncle Paul's tax situation was murky but not clearly illegal. Aunt Christine's nonprofit issues were administrative, not fraudulent. I removed those files from the pile that would go to authorities. That left 13 solid cases, 13 people who had genuinely committed crimes or serious breaches and had celebrated my destruction. At noon, my lawyer called. "Vivian, I'm getting calls from multiple attorneys representing your family members. They want to negotiate." Negotiate what? Reinstatement of contracts in exchange for dropping whatever other evidence you have. No. Are you sure? Some of these people are facing serious financial hardship. Your sister Rachel is apparently in breach on her lease without your monthly payments. Your brother Marcus has already been called into your father's office. Good. Vivian, I have to ask, what's your endgame here? Revenge has legal limits. If you're planning to release criminal evidence, there are procedures. If you're engaging in extortion, I'm not extorting anyone. I terminated business contracts legally. Any criminal evidence I have will be reported through proper channels. Nothing about this is extortion. Then what do you want? I want them to feel what I felt. Public humiliation, loss of income, family rejection, complete destruction of the life they built. I want them to know what it's like when the people who should protect you are the ones who hurt you most. Type endgame. If you understand what she really wanted from all of this. That's not justice, Vivian. That's just pain. Sometimes they're the same thing. Monday morning, I drove to my father's company for the first time in 2 years. I'd stopped going to the office after I started my consulting business, but today I had something to deliver in person. The receptionist's eyes widened when she saw me. "Vivian, I didn't know you were coming in. I need to see my father. Tell him it's not optional." She picked up the phone nervously. 2 minutes later, I was escorted to his office. Dad sat behind his massive oak desk, looking 10 years older than he had at the picnic. Marcus stood beside him, arms crossed. Rachel sat in the corner, her eyes red from crying. "Family meeting?" I said. "How touching." "Vivian, sit down." Dad's voice was tired. "We need to resolve this." "There's nothing to resolve. I terminated contracts. That's business." Rachel stood up. "Business? You're destroying us out of spite." "No, Rachel. You destroyed me out of convenience. I'm just returning the favor." Marcus stepped forward. "We can go to the police. What you're doing is harassment." "Do it, please. Go to the police and explain how you took money from a theft you blamed on me. Explain your illegal gambling operation. Explain why you falsified market research reports for my clients. I have documentation of all of it." His face went pale. Dad leaned forward. What do you want, Vivian? Money? An apology? A position in the company? I want you to admit what you did. That's not out loud. Right now. Admit you stole from your company and framed me. Admit you sacrificed your daughter to save yourself. The room went silent. Rachel stared at Dad. What is she talking about? It's nonsense, Dad said. She's upset and making accusations. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Dad's voice from a conversation he'd had with his accountant 3 years ago, discussing how to hide the embezzlement trail. I'd hacked his phone's cloud backup to get it. His voice on the recording. The beauty is that everyone thinks Vivian did it. The girl's so ambitious, so hungry to prove herself. Nobody questioned whether she'd cross a line. She was the perfect scapegoat. Rachel's hands covered her mouth. Marcus actually stepped away from Dad. You framed your own daughter, Marcus said slowly. You let us believe she was a thief. It was complicated, Dad started. It's not complicated, Rachel shouted. You destroyed her reputation. We spent 6 years treating her like a criminal. And you both profited from it, I said. You took money from that theft. You used it to start businesses, make investments. You knew where it came from. Marcus shook his head. We thought it was from Dad's savings. He said he was helping us get started. Did you really think that? Or did you just not ask questions because it was easier? The look on his face told me everything. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Dad is going to confess to the board of directors. He's going to face consequences for 15 years of embezzlement. The rest of you are going to publicly acknowledge you were wrong about me. Comment confess if you think he should face everything he did. Or I send everything to the Attorney General today. Dad resigned from his company 3 days later. The board forced him out when I provided them with the embezzlement evidence. They decided not to prosecute in exchange for full restitution. $7.2 million, including interest and penalties. He had to sell everything. The house, the cars, his investment, portfolio. He and my mother are renting a 2-bedroom apartment now, both working part-time jobs to survive. Marcus was fired for using company resources for personal gambling research. He lost his house within 6 months. Last I heard, he's managing a sporting goods store and living in a studio apartment. Rachel's furniture business collapsed when clients discovered her licensing issue. She's working as a cashier at Target and living with a roommate. The rest of the family? Various degrees of financial devastation. Some lost their businesses. Some faced legal consequences. All of them lost the comfortable lives they'd built on my reputation's ashes. I could tell you I feel guilty. I could say, revenge didn't satisfy me. That's what people expect in these stories. The moral awakening where you realize revenge is empty. But that would be a lie. Watching them scramble felt good. Watching them panic felt good. Knowing they'd lost everything while I built something real with my own hands felt incredibly good. Do I think about Melissa sometimes? Yes. The close call where I almost destroyed someone innocent haunts me. It reminds me that rage can make you sloppy, can make you hurt people who don't deserve it. But for the 13 who did deserve it, no regrets. The family tried to reconcile after Dad's confession. They sent letters apologizing, explaining they'd been manipulated too. Rachel showed up at my office crying, saying she'd spent 6 years believing a lie. I told her what I told them all. You believed the lie because it was convenient, because having someone to look down on made you feel better about yourselves. You didn't question it because you didn't want to. Some people say I should forgive them. That family is important. That holding grudges only hurts yourself. Those people have never been the scapegoat. They've never watched 30 people cheer while your sister publicly destroys you. They've never spent 6 years being the family joke, the cautionary tale, the reason Dad doesn't trust anyone. My consulting business is thriving. I have 70 clients now, an annual revenue of $1.2 million. I bought a beautiful house with a garden. I have friends, real friends, who never knew the old version of me. I built a life where my name means something good, where people respect my work, where I'm not defined by a crime I didn't commit. And the Clark family? They're a ghost story I sometimes tell at dinner parties. You want to know why I don't talk to my family? The access cards expired at midnight, exactly as promised. Their comfortable lives expired with them. If this story made you think about who's really trustworthy in your own family, hit like and share so others understand what can hide behind family loyalty. Comment expired. If you believe sometimes revenge is exactly what someone deserves, subscribe because next week's story is about a woman who discovered her husband's secret family and destroyed both his worlds simultaneously. Sometimes the person everyone thinks is the problem is actually the only one telling the truth.